Like here, it doesn't seem to be. I'll hit refresh. Maybe it's just restream.io, and it seems like that might be it. Now at least it's looking like it's tickling. Yeah. Okay. Restream.io. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. We're going to be talking about mail, of course, today, and some other things, CMO and stuff. So here we go. Let's get over to the news. And here's Tom Fishburne. Good luck living up with everyone's expectations for the CMO, which is the Chief Marketing Officer. Usually, we've got some other cartoons we're going to touch on. So the CEO has their office, the CFO has their office, the CMO has a revolving door. Okay, and is it the expectations? That's my question for today. Is it? And I'm open to your thoughts. What are the issues here? In some organizations, just the expectation of CMOs are just so out of whack with the reality of what a CMO can really deliver on timelines with the resources and the headwinds that they have. I think some organizations, you're just being set up for a fall, right? See, I guess I don't think that, but I have a different approach and a different philosophy. And one of the emerging solutions is the fractional CMO. If you don't think they're going to be around for a long time anyway, well, then don't give them benefits and pension and stock options, or give them buy-sell agreements or something like that. So let's dig into this. Gartner analyst Chris Ross shared this perspective in the wake of Spencer Stuart's annual research on the tenure of chief marketing officers. Spencer has been tracking the CMO for 19 years and recently found that the average CMO tenure fell to the lowest level in more than a decade. Okay, the CMO working at the top 100 U.S. advertisers, so that would be like the A&A, had been in the role for just 39 months, 3.3 years, half the average tenure of CEOs. Lack of clarity in the CMO role has always been a challenge, particularly relative to other seats at the C-suite table. Some still view marketing as merely the coloring in department, and I believe that deeply in my soul. You know, that most boards of directors, we're not going to mess around with what the CEO feels. It's the board of directors. You know, they're all men or women of means and influence, and most of them didn't get where they are by marketing, not marketing per se. You know, you think about Elon Musk. We're going to talk about him in a second, and you know, he makes bold moves, right? Or Jeff Bezos, bold moves, and Steve Jobs, bold moves, right? Even Bill Gates. You know, it wasn't primarily marketing. You know, he made some moves with IBM that got him where he got, and then he expanded on it from there. And you think about Larry, I can't remember Larry's last name, at Oracle. Or you think about anybody. Think about anybody who's built a big company. It's not usually tweaking the marketing tactics. Not really, no. Okay, so lack of clarity in the CMO role has always been a challenge, particularly relative to the other seats. Yeah, we said that already. The coloring in department, I guess. Go down here. Marketing might be, so either marketing is undervalued, we're calling them the coloring department, or they're responsible for everything throughout the customer experience. Now, my experience briefly in senior management was that I wanted to be in charge of some of those customer touching areas, and so I was in charge of not only the creative department but also the telecenter, inbound and outbound, but also customer service, which was housed in the same place. I felt like customer service might be the most important customer-facing exposure for our company. I know that's not normally true, but this was a B2B catalog, and I think that it was important. So they may be tasked with everything that touches the customer experience, and that was kind of how we set it up. This can lead to the common curse of the CMOs: accountability without authority. Okay, well, you have authority over those departments. In today's environment, there's the added challenge that modern marketing requires expertise in both brand building and performance marketing. I think there's something true about that. I think that's true. You better know something about it. I've heard this described recently as full stack marketer, and I think that's also a pretty good thing to look for. I think that's a better description than specifying everything from, Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Photoshop expertise all the way across the board to all these other things that are potentially there. So I'm not disagreeing with that. Greg Welch at Spencer Stuart. Spencer Stuart must be a company, not a person. Winning today is really, really hard. Bubba Watson says the same thing about winning on the PGA Tour. Anyway, so here's the CMO of the month. You've had days to deliver results. Maybe it's time for a change. And I have seen dramatic results happen in a month or in a couple months. I've seen companies go from 25 annualized to 50 million annualized in 6 months. I've been a part of it, or bigger than that. Anyway, but it takes a big idea. A chief something officer. Okay, chief marketing crossed out. Brand, digital, commercial, experience, chief experience officer. Yeah, I've heard of that. Chief purpose officer. Yeah, I've heard of that. Chief revenue, chief growth officer. That title didn't work either. Any other ideas for a word that magically will fix this role? How about fractional? And if you check out my LinkedIn profile today, you'll see fractional as a possible solution to your problems. I don't expect to be there forever. I can be tasked with and here's my perspective, right? You can have a seat at the table as soon as you can back up your marketing ideas with data, right? And I think that's fair. I think that most marketers don't really grasp that. Don't really grasp the accountability level that a CFO has, right? Or a CEO has. They're accountable right there on the numbers, right on the P&L and balance sheet, right? You know where marketing sits on a balance sheet, or a P&L rather? It's right at the top of the expenses. It's an expense. It doesn't even get down to the revenue. Sales might get down to the revenue. CFO might be tasked with revenue, but there's no direct link between the top of the P&L of the expenses and the bottom of the P&L, which is profitability. Of course there is, but it's not shown on the piece of paper. And as I said, most marketing people execute the vision of the CEO, right? With oversight from the CFO, who ultimately holds the purse strings. So if you're going to get control, if you're going to get authority, then you better have your ideas backed up with marketing data. And what I see especially in the big companies, is I see a penchant for for measurement without testing. They don't isolate key variables. And so, I love it when the CFO comes in and says, well, that's, good results, but is that a valid test? And it's not, most of the time. 99% of the time, I'd say almost. Even in catalog companies, or in catalog companies, the CFO says, well, when you test, one panel wins and the other panel loses, and that erodes margin. Why don't you just do the winning panel? Now how would we know? That's why we test. We have a hypothesis. We have an observation. We'll share it with you. You can help with the design if you want. That's how I do it. Win by surrender. Okay, the World Wildlife Federation makes a preservation point with a nod to Twitter's bird extinction. I think this is funny. This turns out it was a post on LinkedIn, so I don't know if it counts as even an ad. I did find the post, but it was in German, so again, it doesn't help for the show. I was going to feature it as the #1 spot, but then I remembered that I had Fishburne today. Okay, so here's Twitter evolving through time, and which is a nod to evolution, and then it goes to extinct. I mean, that is pretty clever. I got to give it that. That is pretty clever. I really like that. And I do kind of like the way the detail, you know, they removed the feet, right? Then they put a little wing, but that it's more like hands. Then they make it an eye, and they got more detail back again, and then they make it a silhouette of that, and then they stylize it a little more, tip the head up for a little more hopeful look. Anyway, I just think it's funny. And so the translation is, the whole world mourns the loss of the Twitter bird. Not me. I don't really care, to be honest. I hope that Twitter becomes what Musk envisions it, which is, you know, right now it's become a streaming platform. I may even get verified or whatever, buy the check for $8 a month. I used to post all my shows up on Twitter, and I have 4,000 or something followers, but I don't see a lot of engagement on other friends that have more followers, so I'm not sure how to get traction over on Twitter. I think my posts do get a little, I think there is a little, you know, bing that gets over there every day that says watch my show, but it doesn't really show what the show is. So I'll try posting some stuff over there. Today we're in the midst of the greatest extinction of species since the end of the dinosaur era. Yes, well, that may be, you know, but if you're an evolutionist, don't you think that it'll just rebuild itself? I mean, if it could rebuild itself from non-living material, then it can certainly rebuild itself from whatever's left, cockroaches or something, you know. And since there's no real basis for morality tied to evolution, why do you care? Evolution is evolution. It's chance. Someday there'll be more people of some sort. Something will make it. That's kind of the way it works. But if you care about the Twitter bird and you care about plants and animals and the beauty of the creation, I would say, then I think we are stewards. And I would rather see us protect wildlife in insane ways than I would see us fight CO2, which is a beneficial gas for all of life, but especially for plants. Okay, here's an interesting news item from Lori Sullivan. Google merchant tags AI-generated reviews as spam. Now, it's a little more complicated than that, okay? But, I mean, if you're just generating fake reviews, then they are spam. But Google says, we won't allow reviews that are primarily generated by an automated program or artificial intelligence application. If you have identified such content, it should be marked as spam in your feed using the spam attribute. But Google generally has accepted when people use GAI, which I'm assuming is the Google version now of OpenAI or something. But you know what it does, and it should probably do a good job of this. It does summaries of reviews. If you somehow can tell it, just look at these and summarize them, and it will create a little post about what shoppers generally liked and disliked. You might not like it. So the summary is AI generated, and it seems as though that is allowed. But then Karen Baruch says, when it comes to posting on LinkedIn, we've heard that you generally know what you want to say, but going from a great idea to a full-fledged post can be challenging and time-consuming. If that's true, I think you shouldn't post. I think you should give up. You know, anybody who wants to post on LinkedIn and isn't articulate enough to be able to say 2 sentences, I think it's a sad commentary. You know, my niece is a professor out at Gonzaga, and she teaches philosophy, and she said, you know, it's been a problem because the students are using AI to generate their papers. And I said, is it a problem that the papers are are so good, or is it a problem that the human written papers were so awful coming into this point? She said it's really the first, not the second. I said, yeah, and she said that makes it hard to identify. Okay, testing corner, the power of direct mail generated name. And I didn't know what this was about because I'm thinking generated, AI generated, and I'm thinking, is X and is X an internet generated name? So here it goes. We recently did a test for a client that verifies what direct mailers already knew. Don't use online generated names for a direct mail campaign. I'm thinking, like the name of the company, X, is that online generated? If you do split testing, A/B testing on a headline, is that AI or is that online generated? And how do you generate names in a, we used to use call for Sally, ask for Sally or something as a tracking code if we had a telecenter, But I figured it out after a few minutes of pondering. Yeah. Instead, use direct mail generated names. It was in this A/B test the direct mail generated names produced 66 higher percent response than the online generated names. Okay, so I don't know. Let's see. Back about this is about 10 years ago. One of my catalog clients asked me to review their internet hotshots who had an affiliate program going. And so one of the things we did was we compared the names generated in the last year by their affiliate program, where they encouraged the affiliates to offer 20% discount, and they also had to pay the affiliates a 20% discount. So they had already expensed 20% or 40% of the sales, or you could say, eroded the margin. And they didn't understand that at all. But they said that they had generated 1 million names and it only cost them $1 million, or $1 million, and it only cost them $1 million. So they broke even. I said, what about the little stuff we have to ship them in the boxes? Well, I got the deer in the headlights look. And this is, again, one of the problems with marketing is that there is very little accounting. There's just no accounting knowledge at all, right? They're not familiar with these terms: gross margin, sales, margin, profit, none of that. Okay, but we all that aside, I said, well, how valuable are these names? Well, what do you mean? So anyway, we took the names that had been generated from this program over the course of the last 12 months, and we looked at how they'd done in the first quarter of the calendar year. And then we compared it with the year before this started. And it's not head to head, it's not perfect, but some of them were still around. So the new to file names from the year before, plus the year to file names from the most recent year, and how did each of them do in the 3 months or 6 months after they were acquired? And it turned out that the direct mail acquired names were worth about 4 times more money, more downstream sales than the affiliate marketing acquired names. And in this test, in the A/B test, the direct mail generated names produced 66% higher responses. We saw that again also. I've had several clients that tiptoed into Amazon, and what we found was that the Amazon names, especially if there was a seasonality component, like if they went on Amazon with some specials for their Christmas season, normally they would remail the Christmas buyers who were generated by the catalog, but when they were generated by Amazon, it wasn't worth it. They were worse than 5-year-old names or worse. They were just really, really bad. So we even though they were 12-month hotline, even though they were quarterly hotline, we advised them not to mail them, and that made them a lot of money right away. You can make money right away. Easy wins. Who shouldn't you mail? So that's enough for today. Have a great day. Like and share. Like and repost. I'm getting more reposts, and I'm getting more whatever a LinkedIn, whatever that view is. Great. Thanks.